Hey everyone, I'm Jay from Kingdom Builder TV, and we can all say that laughter is one of the greatest medicines. And for a lot of people, including myself, this is especially true when you're going through a season of your life that is very difficult. And, sometimes just a funny joke or a funny story might be just what you need. So I'm excited to be joined today by 2021 Inspirational Country Music Awards Comedian of the Year, author and pastor, Mickey Bell. Mickey, how are you doing today? Welcome to Kingdom Builder.
Jay, how are you, man? Thanks for letting me come on the show.
I'm excited to have you here today to talk about your brand new comedy special called Live from the Paramount. But for those who don't know you, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, man. Thank you for letting me come on and welcome everyone. I'm that individual that while most people were having a midlife crisis, I was having a midlife start over. I was serving as a pastor of a church and just let all of my emotions take control and ended up making some bad decisions. And when I say bad, I mean sinful decisions. And it got me fired from the church, got my family escorted out of the pastor's house. And I had to start over because everything I had planned to do revolved around ministry, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And then right before COVID hit, I was really in some prayer time about what God wanted me to do. And he threw me a loop, man. I'm not going to lie to you. This was not on my radar whatsoever. I had the personality, but it's not like I studied comedy. It's not like I studied doing stand-up. But I followed the command, and here we are today.
Well, that's awesome. And you have a new comedy special. It's actually your second one. It's called Live from the Paramount. And what can people expect from this when they watch it or listen to it?
Well, I tell people I'm a clean comic. It means I don't cuss. Two reasons. Number one, I don't think you have to cuss to be funny. Number two, my mother is still living. So that's one of the main reasons why I don't. But when she meets Jesus, let me tell you something, Jay, buy a ticket to that next show because I got some stuff I got to get off my chest. But I just wanted to be able to create something for the entire family. I wanted mom and dad to be able to bring the kids, the teenagers, and also grandma, and not sit there and be wondering if I'm going to say something that's going to embarrass them. Now, we're going to push the envelope. We're going to embarrass some people. I mean, because that's part of comedy. But as far as being vulgar and that sort of thing, I don't think you have to do that. So when I set out to do this, my mentors in comedy told me, they said, you're going to have to choose. And I said, I'm going to have to choose what? They said, you're going to have to choose whether you're going to be clean or not, because that will dictate how you write and it will dictate how you perform. So I even had to take it an extra step further because there's a thing called clean comedy that you can do in comedy clubs. But then there's a thing called church clean, because you can't do in church what you can do in a comedy club, even though it's clean.
Yeah.
So I had to have another level of cleanliness in that because a lot of the dates and the shows that we do about 160 concerts a year. And a lot of those are in the church or in a church crowd. So yeah, you have to take it an extra step further.
Yeah, and you mentioned right off the bat in this comedy special about offending people, and with comedy, I actually didn't find Jesus until I was 22, and I grew up loving comedy, so I also had parents who didn't closely monitor what I was listening to. So I grew up with stuff like, I think one of the first comedy specials I remember seeing was Eddie Murphy Raw.
Come on, yes.
I grew up with stuff like George Carlin, Sam Kinison, some of
Yes.
the early Adam Sandler stuff, and
Come on now.
now I'm like, wow, I can't believe my mom and dad let me watch it. But then I realized my parents probably didn't realize I was even watching or listening to that. And there's so there in just comedy from so many other inappropriate sources, movies and all that. And I guess my next question is, everyone has influences as far as their career goes. And as a comedian, who would you say that your inspirations and people, who inspired you to get into comedy?
Well, I really didn't know because I didn't really watch a lot of comics because I grew up independent, fundamental, King James Version only Baptist. So I was messed up from the beginning. We were not allowed to watch movies. So, stand-up comedy was, I didn't even know it existed growing up. So I didn't listen to comedians. We were not allowed to laugh because it was against our religion. So I had to actually find it more when I became an adult. And I started really when I started down this track of my life, that's when I kind of started looking at different ones. Now I'm supposed to mention all Christian comedians, but not all Christian comedians are funny. So when I go
Mhm.
back now, some of the ones you mentioned are those there too. But like your John Chris. John is man, he's kicking it right now. He's hilarious. He's had his issues, but my goodness, he's hilarious. I mean, as far as having his finger on the pulse of Christianity, as far as comedy goes, man, he's all over it, especially with
Mhm.
his videos. But I really like Steve Harvey in his early days. A lot of people may not realize the way that Steve Harvey actually got his start, and hearing some of his early stuff was really good. Kevin Hart's early stuff was really good. Now, they can throw some words around that may cause some people to feel uncomfortable. You have to listen to it and then ask for forgiveness. But this stuff, I mean, of course, what I'm looking at too is delivery and writing, not so much of it just makes me laugh. But those two people make me laugh.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the aforementioned group of comedians that I grew up with, watching. If those specials were on in today's culture, they'd get canceled because it's
Oh,
like,
they'd crucify them. They'd
yeah,
hang them
it's like
upside down.
so many things back then I watched. I'm like, wow, that kind of stuff just wouldn't fly today. And I mean, you mentioned being offended in this new comedy special, and why do you think people get so offended nowadays? I mean, they're jokes. It's meant to be funny, and it just seems like there's so much like offending going on. I mean, why do you think that's so in our culture today?
Well, Jay, I think a lot of it, and you just said it, it's our climate. It's the climate of where we are. People, I get up and I make fun of the denominations, and people are okay with that. They're okay with me making fun of denominations. Some of the best bits that I get the most response from will be, and I will have people actually come up to me after the concert because you didn't make fun of our religion. And I'm like, what is your religion? Well, you're like 12th Street from the Brethren. And I'm like, I've never heard of you. Um, but I mean, it's okay to make fun of their denominations. But now I used to get hate mail just because, now, without even making jokes, if I just said the word Democrat in my shows, I would get hate mail. Just, and it's not that I was making fun of them. I mean, I did, but they just got upset because you need to keep that out. You don't need, because that they're using the political divide to divide the country. And I think it's just the climate we're in, man. We've got top earning comedians that are hanging it up. I mean, they're saying, look, we can't even be funny anymore because everybody's going to take what we say and they're going to crucify us for it. And so I guess I'm still that new kid. I'm the one that's still trying to make it. So yeah, I mean, you have to be careful. Like I said, I can make fun of church all day long. People are okay with me making fun of their religion, but don't make fun of my political party. And that's where that line is.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, I went early last year, I went and saw Rob Schneider do stand-up
Mm,
comedy. And Rob Schneider will admit right off the bat that I don't know about now. I think he actually goes to church now, but
yes.
I remember the show. He said, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm a liberal. But he
Hmm.
said people have their opinions, and whether you're on one side of the fence or another, he's like, you just need to sit back and respect each other and everything. And I thought that was pretty profound coming from somebody not only that was in Hollywood, but doing stand up. And I thought that was, amazing. And some of the when I got saved when I was 22, some of the I think one of the first Christian comedians that I came across was my first wife had mentioned him to me, and I watched him, Mark Lowry,
Yeah.
and I remember seeing a lot of his stuff. And he there is no denomination that is safe for Mark Lowry. I mean,
Right.
he's hilarious. But then you got other ones like Shonda Pierce. You got my friend Michael Joyner, who's a
Hmm.
comedian. Then you got like Tim Hawkins, but I
Tim's
can now
good.
add you to that list because I love Live from the Paramount. It was,
Oh
not
man, thank
only
you.
incredibly funny, but it was something that I can sit and listen to with my kids. And, we could all laugh together. And there was like, it's like you said, you don't have to use profanity. You don't have to be vulgar to be funny. Because some of the funniest comedy skits I've ever seen have no cussing in them at all.
Correct.
It's like you said, it's the delivery. And aside from the comedy stuff, and being a comedian, you're also an author and a pastor, and you recently released a few books. One is one that I was actually excited to read about is called Reverse the Course of Depression, as well as another book called I Am David. Take a moment to tell us about these two books and what readers are going to find in them.
Okay, my first book was I Am David. A lot of people say, well, why did you call it that? It's actually called I Am David, A Pastor's Fall into Grace. Usually when a pastor has a fall, we'll say he fell from grace. Well, I didn't. I fell into grace.
Mm.
Because when I had my fall, God was there to catch me and he built me back up. When you look at my life story, all the way from when I was a child, I found out at 13 that I was adopted at birth. I had to deal with all those type of emotions. And like I said, it's not a joke. I was raised independent, King James Version only. And I have this saying where we prayed about everything. We just didn't talk about anything. So I
Mm.
didn't know I was supposed to talk about my emotions. I didn't know I was supposed to deal with that. And then that affected me when I became an adult and started having issues. So the book kind of parallels the life of King David, things that he went through as a kid and as adult, decisions he made parallels my life. And so I tell his story while also telling my story. So the first page of that book, which is just purely my life story, starts with me getting fired from the church. And of course, I tell everything of why I got fired from the church. And the reason I did that is because I knew, church people are nosy. And so I knew that I could sell books if I told them what I did. No, that's my story. I just cover everything. I cover that. I cover my depression. I cover everything that I have gone through. And then when I started doing comedy, I thought my story was going to be all about redemption. I thought that God is putting me out there so I can tell people that God is the giver of the second chance and he's going to love you and all this. But then I quickly found that people were really resonating with my bout with mental illness. And when I started talking about that, it just opened up an entire level of other dates and shows and the people that were reaching out to us on social media. People started coming up and saying, Mickey, I'm going through what you've been through. Can you help me? And I was overwhelmed, just to tell you the truth, because I was just sharing my story. I didn't realize the power in just sharing the story was going to have. So I just took out a blank sheet of paper. I tell this a lot. I took out a blank sheet of paper and I listed down emotions, the emotions that battle me. Sometimes I feel invisible. Sometimes I feel like I have missed my opportunity. Sometimes I consider cutting myself or taking my own life. I mean, just some real raw emotions that would attack my mind when it comes to mental illness. And so what I did was I took that book and I made each emotion a chapter. And then I went into God's word and I found how I could personally fight each emotion. And then I put it in book form. So the book is not necessarily, I mean, you can read it from cover to cover. It's not a story type book. It's more of a resource. So if you wake up one day and you're battling a certain emotion, then you could just go to that chapter. And then hopefully I can help you with that chapter, showing you how I fight it.
Right.
And in return, it would help you learn how you can fight it. I am a proponent that you can have mental illness and still live victorious. And people say, well, no, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, because you just have to learn how to fight the enemy. People
Mm.
say, well, God can heal you from mental illness. Well, yeah, God cleanses us from sin too, but that doesn't keep us from either being tempted or giving into it. So
Right.
we have to purposely learn how we're going to live a life that conquers sin. Well, I have to learn how to live a life that conquers my weakness and mental illness. And so that's what that book is about, just showing people how you need to fight each day, even though you have mental illness, depression, anxiety, how you can still live a life and have it a life more abundantly that Christ promised.
Exactly. And that, that goes into, the next thing, mental health awareness is very important to me. And I know it's very important to you as well. I have one of my sons, my 15-year-old has autism. So there's
Mm,
just a wide variety of different emotions,
right.
depression, anxiety, and everything I have to deal with him. And then my other son, who's a little younger, um, we adopted him when he was 9 months old, and his mother unfortunately was a drug addict. So he was born addicted to drugs and stuff, and it's affected his mental well-being now. But it's a constant challenge and struggle with my boys having to deal with that. And then
Yeah.
me, just the stuff that I've dealt with in my life and stuff. And it's like, it's always good to have resources like this aside from scripture, because scripture is your roadmap. But then you got books like this that are kind of a more personalized thing saying, okay, other people go through this like me. Other people deal with the same exact things that I deal
Correct.
with. I'm not alone in this. And I think it's incredible that you took the time after that show and just wrote that down and like put it into a book. And the other cool thing I think is, you partner with the National Alliance for Mental Health, which I think is really cool. Tell us about that and, your desire to partner with them.
I just have so many people coming up to me at concerts, and we hear their stories, and they're like, just thank you for being so open, because just you saying it from stage just really helps. And then I want to be able to give people a resource. I want to be able to give people the help that they need. I'm not going to be there. I'm going to another city. I'm going to another state to do another show. I can't sit there and hold everyone's hand until they find their healing. So I wanted to make sure that I was doing my part, not just talking it, but putting my money behind it, putting my energy behind it. And so when they reached out after hearing my story, we just decided that we were going to, do whatever we could do to help even people we may never meet that battle mental illness. So the Live from the Paramount project, a portion of those proceeds, every download, every stream, every CD is going to go to NAMI, because we want them to know that we're supporting them. And I want others to know that I'm supporting the cause. I'm not just talking the talk, but I'm walking the walk, right?
Amen.
So a portion of that goes to help fight mental illness, goes to help people who need the help the most. And they can reach people that I will never see and people that I will never meet. But I just like knowing the fact that we're kind of coming together. Everyone is coming together to kind of help fight this.
Amen. Well, I certainly appreciate that. And in closing, Mickey, we appreciate you coming by to chat with us
Absolutely.
today. Where can folks get more information on your ministry and be able to listen to Live from the Paramount and pick up these books at?
Absolutely. Well, Amazon has the books. You get it quicker if you go there. Amazon has the books. You can download Live from the Paramount wherever you buy music, iTunes. Our first day of releasing Live from the Paramount went #1. We were the #1 download. And streaming, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get music, you can find that. But my website is themickybell.com. And that's where you can check out our schedule. You can check out everything we've got going on. Follow us on social media, The Mickey Bell. We're constantly talking about mental illness online. We'll do some Facebook Lives. We'll do some Instagram Lives just to kind of encourage people. So if you need that constant encouragement, man, just go follow us and check us out. But I want to say thank you. Thank you for what you're doing to help get the word out, how you're encouraging people with your show, and how you're allowing people like me the opportunity to talk about some of the hard subject matters in hopes that it helps people. And so, man, I appreciate you giving up the time that you did to kind of highlight this.
Oh, I appreciate you coming by, man. Thank you so much for coming by to talk to us. And, I'm just praying that God can continue to use you to help everybody out there and just point people back to Jesus, man.
Absolutely. And those storms that are going in Florida, why don't you just keep them, buddy? We've had enough. So if you just want to keep those winds down there, that'd be nice. I'd appreciate that.